We are definitely talking to a couple of key players, and what we the important part is that our chairman Rajiv Srivastava of Basel, he's a big believer in growth through inorganic models as well. It has served him and his portfolio companies very well. And between Basel, between the new directors who've come on board, between the LPs, we are actually having some very interesting candidates that we're looking at. And to extend to your question, the approach will be one very IP centric, that do they bring in specific technology, do they bring in a specific knowledge that we don't have. That's one. The second one would be large client bases. There are a whole host of companies who have kind of reached a little bit of a plateau. They have a large slew of portfolio clients, but they aren't really growing. That's the other one. And finally, of course, there could be just from a revenue growth. But these will be strategic, but clearly inorganic is important for us, and we've asked Shenoy to literally tighten his belt to be able to be ready for some of these soon. No, I heard that question. I wish again, as I said, we are not looking at it on those model. As I mentioned, inorganic is not going to be the vehicle for the revenue. It will be a collateral benefit of that merger. But the important thing you'll appreciate, since we are really working on an IP-led, that will be the primary one. And I think you will appreciate that. So this is not going to be just putting together multiple companies to just generate revenue. Sure. Yeah, what did happen, first of all, we created what Rajiv and Sanjeev and Samir at Basel Technology Fund, what they did was they had Basel Technology Partner. They created a third fund where there's two LPs have come on board, and we used that fund, one, to get some of the individual investors to have a nice exit. So now we have actual institutional investors. That's very, very important, and you'll appreciate that in terms of the whole zen of the company changes. And we have dry powder from the LPs to be able to do some of the acquisitions that we are also looking at. No, money has come in as well. I don't think we are mentioning that. I can again get back to you offline on that, only because I'm not sure if we have mentioned that from the LP's point of view. I have no problem telling you separately on that. But it's been a significant fund, and what the fund did was the two LPs have come in, and we've now got 6 portfolio companies under Basel. And those 6 portfolio companies in itself is around 350 odd million in revenue. And GAVS being one of the portfolio companies.
So the LPs coming in, the fund infusion would be for all 6 portfolio companies?
That's exactly right. Yes, of course. That's right, yeah. But very pedigreed LP, very pedigreed LP. New Quest Capital and Committed Advisors. Yeah. The shareholding pattern with GAVS, absolutely, because what we did was the 2 founders, they have exited, and we had Basel, who was there along with another individual investor. That has been fully cleaned up, and now it's Basel Technology Partners, and we have a generous ESOP plan for the leaders. Let's talk about that, yes. Uh, very impressed and influenced by Professor Bala. I think all of us, once we reach that age, if we have even half of his energy and verve, I think we will feel blessed. So what did we do was, again, for me, I've been in the US now for 27 years, and I'm always struck by the very strong relationship of academics and government, academics and industry. I mean, if you look at it, every president who comes in clearly has his pick from Harvard or Yale or Princeton and others. If you look at all the pharmaceutical companies, very large number of their innovation comes from academics. If you look at the publishing firm like Wiley, they've published something like 21 of their 25 key titles are Nobel laureates that they publish. So that was something that I was perpetually pestering Balaji and team, and we were very lucky that, and it's also karma, you like the story, that we were perpetually pursuing IIT Madras, and they were not giving us the time of the day. And finally, we were able to track one of them, Professor Nandan Sudarshan, who's from MIT. Guess what? He had actually run the Dream Runners half marathon, and he liked the fact that we were raising funds for prosthetic limbs and others. So suddenly he was much more fertile in talking to us. So now the Robert Bosch Institute of Innovation clearly is working very closely, and it's not per se every week Chandra and his team visit them or they come in. And then what we also did was, we were doing a lot of work with IIM Bangalore. I was visiting them, meeting them, and we had some batch of management grads join us. But what we found was, as I've told you, for some reason or other, Chennai has become very important to me and all of us, of course. So we reached out to Great Lakes management, and Professor Bala really opened his arms to help us out. So what we've done is we've brought on board a fairly large slew of their MBA students into the company. These are people who work with Accenture, with Infosys, Cognizant, iGate, and then they've done their MBA at Great Lakes. So they've come on board. Like my colleague here, Rajalakshmi, she was one of the toppers from Great Lakes, has been with Accenture in the past. We have a CEO's office which she's running, where some of our top key initiatives, one among them is what I may commit here, is being run by her. A lot of our sales, product management, IP are run by the Great Lakes folks. And then, of course, a lot of the work that we're doing in the blockchain area is again run by KCG College. I went and met them, really like some of the technology work that they're doing. Young men with a lot of spunk and verve. So we will continue to do that. And we had a small session last time, which was a joint session between KCG, Great Lakes, and GAVS. And if I could really grow that, I'll be feeling very proud. That's a small legacy that we'd love to leave behind. Sure. Again, as I said, we're a privately held company. We have right now almost 1,300 people. We are, with some acquisition which could happen, we will be shy of 100 million shortly. Of this, you could answer that, of this around 700 odd in Chennai. And I would love to have you visit us. We're very proud of the facility that we are building. We have an IP center which we are calling Zero Location, where incubation and ideation happens. We have an interesting lab where newer concepts are being built. So those are, again, clearly something that we are quite passionate about.
Working with any Indian company?
Yes, again, very important. Again, over the years, the common refrain has been that IT services company don't work in India because the multiples are not right. We've decided that if we are going to be genuine in IP company, Airtel is spending as much with IBM or Blue Prism or UiPath, so we should be there. So some of the larger banks, and you will shortly, and I would love to come back to you, one of the very important media company, Balaji and I, Chandra, we've been talking to their CIO. One of the larger media companies, we're going to have the entire element of ZIF with him, and one of the larger banks we're working with again, and we're doing some fascinating work in the predictive engine. We do something what's called unified dashboard, and we right now have almost 15 to 20 genuine prospects in India. We have invested in a fairly strong sales leadership plan and people in India. So they're all very much there. So this is not platitude. I would be most proud if I can have at least 10 installations of our IP products in India over the next 12 months. And these are very good names that we'll be very proud to share with you once we get their approval.
And you are working with AI, predictive analytics, automation, all of which are being blamed for joblessness.
Okay.
What's your take on that?
You know, there are various ways one can answer that. I actually been speaking at multiple forums to that end. I think in the US, clearly there will be some impact. There will be impact. Let's not hide it. The election was all about unemployment and people feeling when Hillary Clinton went around and told the coal miners that we'll retrain you, it didn't sit well. So there is a challenge. But I think the time has come. This morning I was listening to Tim Cook on Amanpour on CNN, and he was talking about the most important thing for Apple now is autonomous. Immediately one jumps onto cars, self-driving cars. But what he was talking about, this whole autonomy, is really the basis of machine learning. And I think a lot of stuff in medicine, what we can do, like you're absolutely right, one can immediately say self-driving cars, a lot of drivers will be rendered unemployed. But again, in the US, there is a large swath of people who are visually impaired. For them, their quality of life will entirely change. So unfortunately, I'm not a sociologist to wax eloquent on what will happen. But I think you have to give automation and AI a chance. I think Google, Mr. Sundar Pichai, of course, has talked about that. They could have some negative impacts. But I think we've got to weigh this along with some of the benefits that will accrue to us through the adoption of AI. Balaji or Chandra, you want to weigh in?
I think it's a good question, and I think even if in the academics within India, you see more and more people not coming the traditional way. More and more people are being taught about automation. Artificial intelligence is part and parcel of their curriculum. My son is in engineering, computer science, and for him it's artificial intelligence, Python, IoT, which is the mainstream of both the final year subjects as well as the project. And if you're not there, you're not there. So I think it is becoming mainstream. The transition is from the traditional way of working to what's happening in this automation and smart machines. The transition is happening quite well because people are themselves in their lives saying, right, for example, my neighbor never used to walk into the house and say, open the curtains. Now he's doing that, right? But he still has his maidservant and the others to support him. So I think there is a paradigm shift in the way people are looking at what's evolving and how the quality of life has changed. But as Sumit said, I think that to give it some time and allow the benefits to seep in before people can embrace it or not embrace it rather than jump into something.
Can I just jump in? This is important. I really like Shashi Tharoor's book, Inglorious Empire, and where they're talking about that in the 1800s, India actually, along with China, almost had 25% of the global GDP. After that, we've lost a lot of these waves. The Industrial Revolution, we've lost basic machines, we've lost the agrarian war. I think this is a very interesting inflection point. I mean, not to plug my little book, but I actually wrote on this aspect of inflection point along with Jack Canfield, where it's a time where forces come together, where convex curve and concave come together. And in such a situation, I think this is the time for India. I think it is just the right time where we've had enough experience deploying people to mitigate the Y2K issues, to handle the internet wave, to do the software development. I think real IP using AI, automation, and competing with the likes of the Nordic countries and Israel in genuinely being an automation-led and AI-led country, this could be a great wave for our country.
One final question, Sumit.
Please.
I wanted to ask you is, I read your brochure, but it goes like that.
Okay.
What does it mean to a customer that Gals is working with the enterprise? What does it mean, let's say, to the CFO? Can you
Very
make
quickly,
it
yeah.
stretched out a bit and say this is the use case?
Yeah, very simple. India has been served very well by professional services. So you have a problem at American Express or Citibank. So the larger players have gone ahead and provided 2,000 people, of which 200 is in on-site and 1,800 in India. And that has served them well. And the likes of you have perpetually asked them in terms of what is their quarterly revenue, what are the recruitment, what they're doing. So automation or trying to do things differently has never been a driver for some of these companies. When a company is engaging with a Balaji and his team or engaging with Chandra and his team, they are definitely assured that they will now get an automation and an AI-led solution where it will be less dependent on people and more on smart machines. Predictions will improve, downtime will reduce, and it will have a direct bearing on their revenue. We are working with one of the publishing firms which does school books. Give me the exact month. 60% of the revenue comes sometime, I think, in September, October, when the schools are opening. I repeat, 60% of the revenue. Imagine during that time, if you have 10% downtime, it will have a direct impact on the revenue of this firm. In such a situation, if Chandra, Balaji, and our partner companies can help them on a cloud transformation and help them with their predictive engine and improve reliability, it has a direct bearing on the livelihood of people who work in that organization.
So very simply, the CFO, the best way is cost reduction, because he can take away licenses costs, which is playing for a lot of people. So it's a cost saving for him. Significant productivity improvement, primarily because of one, cost arbitrage initially, but more importantly, productivity improvements because most of it is under machines. So a lot of cost saving. From a technology perspective, the CTO, CIO of the organization, very predictability running of the operations. So I'm no longer getting beaten by the business for something is not available. I'm being more proactive in making the systems available, making the infrastructure and operations run smoothly. From a CXO level, that is the CEO level and others, the whole model of financing changes from being a capex, you put so much of funds up front and you never know what's going to be the return. Here you're going to pay as you consume, and that's becoming more and more viable and easy. And lastly, because of all of this, extreme satisfaction and delight for the end user. It's no longer I'm doing a task, but I'm doing a task in a much different way, much easier way, much seamless way. Those are significant benefits which accrues across the various CXO organizations.
And these clients must be doing doctors?
Beg your pardon?
Doctors must be happening with these clients.
No, it's not. It's, they do. It's rationalization. is happening, but it's successful right now. But right now what we are focusing on the reliability for one of the very large consumer goods company here in Midwest where Balaji and Chandra have implemented the reliability and predictability of the computer infrastructure becomes extremely important worldwide. And they're competing with some of the biggest players here.
Can you tell us a bit about your expansion plans for this funding? I mean, what the funding would be there to use for in terms
Sure,
of
sure. Okay, I did. The funding, of course, as I said, one, it has brought in institutional investors into the organization, and we have significant amount of dry powder, which will be used for acquisitions, strategic acquisitions. What we also have from the investors is a very large ecosystems of connects, and they are definitely committed to kind of introduce us and link us up with a fair number of client ecosystem. And finally, Basil, as I mentioned to you, has a portfolio of 6 companies of almost 350 million. And some of them are doing some fascinating work in the areas of DevOps and others. So there's also a lot of cooperative eugenics that we are working on, and that's really where we are right now.
You said you are closer to acquiring one company.
Yes.
Is it an
It is a US company, yes. It should happen sometime by end March.
As of now, you are shy of $100 million
Yeah,
in revenue.
yeah,
And you said in another 12 to 18 months you will be 100 plus.
correct.
And on something.
That's right.
Then within 12 months you are going to hit 200 million.
That was clearly the intent, yes.
So from 100, in 1.5 years you are going to only $10 million.
We are not, as I said, I could work the numbers out with you separately, but there are certain other inorganic plans that we have in mind, which could take us to that number.
So when do you think all this inorganic acquisition will be completed? Any time frame there?
As I said, we have certain candidates that we have in mind. Some of them are taking a little longer, and but we definitely feel in the next 12 to 18 months you will see some more acquisitions. If you remember, I was taking some time talking to you about the PE firms as well, that it was taking some time, and now I'm able to announce that. So don't hold me to it, but clearly we have a charter that within the 18 months you're going to see 18 to 24 months some interesting M&A and inorganic growth within the organization.
where do you source your tech talent from, especially data scientists? And I mean, is Chennai a base?
Chennai is clearly a base, clearly a base. Our data scientists are in Chennai. There have been some folks from Bangalore who transplanted here, but very, very local leaders. And I think Chennai, between IIT and some of the other institutes, we're actually proud of the folks that we've been able to tap.
But this acquisition by March will be the first one?
Beg your pardon?
Be the first acquisition?
No, we've done one already. We've already done one, and this would be, again, same problem I have, just as a private thing, we can't just mention that here. Next 12 months, 12 months. That's what our sales target is for IP. Yes, I mentioned we have 2 installations in India right now, and we actually are, in terms of POCs, how many POCs are being run here? Proof of concept?
5. But 5 POCs are being run right now.
Proof of concept.
Proof of concepts are being run here right now. And 2 live installations are going on. Sumit, as Sumit said, we are about in conversations in the last leg of the conversations, there are about 8 to 10 people in India, 8 to 10 large organizations in India.
But this we are very bullish. Seriously, the Gartner, I don't know if you've seen it, Gartner has actually rated that how managed services will get changed using smart machines. They've talked about IBM Watson, they had mentioned HCL Dry Ice, they had talked about TCS, and Infosys' Mana, and they've actually rated GAVs very much high up there. Very humbled by that. There's a company by the name of Black Book of Sourcing. I'd love to show that to you. They've actually rated us as one of the #1 in the healthcare, in the infrastructure and AI space. We have Everest, which has actually rated us again very well. Virtusa and others were also rated up there, but for the size and what we're trying to do, the accolades and some of the stuff that we're getting has been very helpful.
How big is this market? This table
That's right.
puts you ahead of even Watson, AIs.
Correct, correct.
How big is this market? And how big is your share in this?
Sure. Our share is decidedly small now. I can at least give you some indication, which is from an IP. We've almost done $7.5 million worth of IP sale, and it will give you a good indication. One of the leaders, Moogsoft, which has almost 40 million Series 2 funding, has almost 8.5 million of their IP sales. So we are actually pretty good. And what, Chandra, you had the AI ops number?
3 trillion.
How much is that?
Overall, is AI is 3 trillion.
So AI is of course 3 trillion, but no.
So this is AI in the AI ops and infrastructure space. The artificial intelligence market itself is about $3 trillion. The AI ops is substantially lower.
It'll be around 21 billion if I
Yeah,
can
but
serve
the
right.
whole AI market is $3 trillion.